So you're thinking of moving to South Florida, and I want to welcome you to the club. You're definitely not alone. There are over 1,000 people per day that are moving to the state of Florida, and we get calls from some of them every single day that are looking to move or relocate to the greater Fort Lauderdale area. So this video is all about my story on moving from New York to Fort Lauderdale and some of the differences that I've discovered and that you probably need to know if you're thinking of making a move here, just so you can make sure you're making the best decision for you and your family, and it's coming right up. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Living in Fort Lauderdale. My name's Rob Zeoli, and I'm a real estate agent right down here in South Florida. If this is your first time here, welcome, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon down below to be notified anytime I go ahead and post a new video. I put out weekly videos and content about what it's like to live and to play down here in South Florida. But more than that, guys, I am a local real estate agent, and what I love more than anything is to help people with their real estate needs. So if that is you and you have any questions about South Florida, about real estate, or any city down here, my information is going to be popping up down below. I'm open 24/7. You can reach me by phone, text, send me an email or a comment. I look forward to hearing from you. And without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So let's dive right into it, guys. Now, I was born and raised in New York, the Bronx, actually. I lived there until I was about 21 and packed up my car at that point and moved out to Los Angeles to pursue a music career. So a lot of people ask me about the guitars in the background, if they're just decorative, but no, actually, I do play them. Now, that stage of my life is totally different story, and another video, I guess that would be PG-13 or R-rated, so maybe we'll get to that at a different time. But we're talking about my experience moving from New York to Florida. So I moved back to New York for a couple of years, and in 2004, I made the transition and moved down here to South Florida. So I have a construction background, and the idea was to move down here to South Florida. I wanted to get into real estate anyway, and I figured that having the construction background would be helpful. Now, one of the things that I noticed immediately once I moved out here is the difference in the wages between South Florida, or Florida in general, I guess, and New York. Now, one thing you need to know about the state of Florida, it's not really a union state, so for all you construction guys thinking of transferring your book down here and getting a job in construction, it really doesn't work that way down here. And as far as going to work for somebody in the construction field, you know, the pay is pretty horrible down here. There's always someone down here that will do the work for less, so you cannot expect to be making too much at all if working for somebody in construction, unless you're in some sort of a management position or a little bit higher up, like a superintendent or running the company. Now, if you have a trade, or you know a trade like, say, plumbing or electrical, the pay will be a little bit better, but really not on par at all with the wages back in New York. Most people that I know down here in Florida that do well are either in some sort of a management position at their job, whatever that is, or they own their own business. Now, to give a little example, let's just take the profession, say a teacher. Now, New York ranks number 2 as far as wages for teachers. Florida ranks 39. And you'll find that no matter what profession that you pick, you'll notice that Florida is probably 15–20% lower in the pay scale as opposed to that same type of job back in New York. So here's the silver lining and the good news. The cost of living overall in New York is 30% higher than the cost of living overall down here in Fort Lauderdale and Florida in general. So if you really think about it overall, you're still coming out ahead. Also, one thing about the state of Florida is that we do not have any state income tax. So I think the tax rate on state income tax in New York is around 13%. So just think about how much money that equates to at the end of the year after doing your taxes. 13%, that's real money. Now, something that's very interesting that's happening down here in South Florida in the last couple of years is that a lot of big companies are actually opening offices, and some of them are relocating down here to South Florida. It's becoming a real big epicenter for the banking and finance industry. Also, the city of Miami is emerging as one of the hottest new tech hubs in all of North America, so it's bringing a lot of jobs. So what we're noticing down here in the greater Fort Lauderdale area and South Florida in general is that with the influx of all these new companies coming in, wages are actually rising, which is incredible news for people looking to relocate here, and also for the locals as well. And also, like I mentioned earlier, not only is it raising the wages down here in South Florida, but it's bringing new opportunities and more jobs, which is great for everyone. Now, the second thing that I noticed right away down here once I moved to South Florida in the greater Fort Lauderdale area is the type of housing. And I don't mean prices, I'm talking about just the type of house. So one thing that I really miss having in my house is an actual basement. So one thing about South Florida, guys, is we do not have basements. It has to do with the elevation, and really we're built on a swamp actually. So no basements here. I really miss having a basement. So I remember spending so much time as a child in the basement of my mom's house, or even my grandfather's house, just exploring and checking out all his tools. But something I definitely miss is having that extra space, because you can do so much with it. Now, another thing I really miss about the houses in New York is the attic. So here in South Florida, most of the homes here do not have a lot of attic space. I mean, you can barely stick your head up there. So as far as storing things up there, that's out of the question. I remember back in New York at my grandfather's house and my mom's house, the attics were so big you can go up there and stand up. So I mean, actually spent a lot of time up in the attics as well. It's like having a whole another area to explore, and really nice to have that extra space for storage and things like that. Now, another thing about the housing or the homes between New York and South Florida is the difference in price. So I think the median cost of a home in New York is almost double of that down here in Fort Lauderdale. So definitely another thing you want to keep in mind. Now, another thing that I noticed right away when I moved down here to South Florida is the walkability. Basically, there is none. So if you live down here in South Florida, you're going to have a car. Most people obviously have cars in New York, but there's so much you can do with public transportation that it's a total different world. I mean, I had a train which was right on the corner of my house. I mean, I could hear it every time it pulled up to the station. So at any time that I wanted to, I could just jump on the train and go anywhere I wanted to. I can go downtown Manhattan. Also, I can walk, to any store that I wanted back in New York. But down here in South Florida, guys, you're going to have a car. There's just no two ways about it. If you're really into the city type of life, it's going to be a huge adjustment. There's some areas like downtown Fort Lauderdale that, it's a little more of a city, and they have public transportation, and things are kind of walkable if you live right there. But there's no two ways about it, guys. You're going to have a car, and that's something you're really going to have to get used to if you like living in an area that has a lot of walkability. Now, another thing that I noticed pretty quickly when I moved down here to Fort Lauderdale is just the type of lifestyle that people lead, and they're very laid back. So you'll notice that pretty quickly. People down here in South Florida are not in a rush to go anywhere. And I remember back when I lived in New York that people seem to be, maybe in too much of a rush to go nowhere. But down here, people, they're pretty laid back. Now, you're really going to notice that when you're driving down here in South Florida, and that's another subject entirely. The drivers down here in South Florida, for some reason, they're just not very good. Now, most of you probably heard the term Sunday driver. Well, that really means that someone's out on a Sunday with really no care in the world and really not in a rush to go anywhere, so they're just cruising and not really caring about getting anywhere at any time. That's pretty much like that every day of the week down here in South Florida. I mean, really, you always get that one person that's going under the speed limit, right in the middle lane, down the street, and just oblivious to everything that's going around them. Now, you're really going to notice the drivers also when it comes to driving on the highway. Now, I don't know if it's a law back in New York, but I know it's an unwritten law that the left lane is a passing lane. So if you go in the left lane, you do your thing, you pass someone who might be going too slow, and then you move out of the lane. Well, down here in South Florida, they don't do that. It's very common to have someone in the left lane going 40 miles an hour, oblivious to everything behind them and the big traffic jam that's going on. So the drivers down here is definitely something you're gonna have to get used to when relocating or moving here from New York. Now, another thing that I noticed right away, and obviously you will too when you move down here from New York, is the weather. So the main thing is we don't have harsh winters down here. So that whole season of the harsh winters and the snow and the bitter cold, you don't have to deal with it down here in South Florida. Now, we don't have perfect weather. We have great weather most of the time, but we do have our bad weather times of year as well. So the summertime, it's brutally hot down here. It's hot in New York as well, but it's a little more humid down here. It's more tropical, so, you know, it's just something you're gonna have to deal with. The summertime is hot, you will sweat. If you happen to work outdoors, you're gonna feel it, but that's one thing you need to know about the weather. The winter time, the weather is fantastic, my favorite time of the year. Now, the main thing about the weather you're gonna definitely get used to is our hurricane season. Now, between June and the end of November is our hurricane season, so obviously that brings hurricanes and tropical storms and also a lot of rain. And another thing that I noticed right away when I moved down here to Fort Lauderdale from New York was there's just so many activities that are available to you. And I think a lot of this has to do with, you know, not having that whole winter period where it's so cold in New York and restricts you from doing a lot of things that you can do down here. And I do talk about this on a lot of my other videos. Most people that I meet, and myself included, from living here, is that you definitely start to lead a much more active and outdoor lifestyle just because there's much more time to do a lot of things. So every city down here in the Fort Lauderdale area is just loaded with different parks, with all kinds of outdoor activities. Every city has a bunch of different golf courses. Obviously, you have the beach, which you can really go year round. And boating is another big thing, fishing. So definitely something that really is going to come into play when moving here is taking advantage of all the different activities that are available to you down here in South Florida, because you have most of the year to be outside and enjoy them. So I do want to thank you for watching the video and, you know, kind of my story about my journey on moving from New York and relocating down here to South Florida. Hopefully you got something out of it. And speaking of South Florida or Fort Lauderdale or any area down here in South Florida, we would absolutely love to help you with your real estate needs, or to help you find that perfect place you might be thinking of moving to or just want to go see. But again, in order to do that, you got to reach out. So my number is popping up down below again. You can reach me by phone, by text. I'm open 24/7. I look forward to hearing from you and helping you with any of your real estate needs. And until the next video, I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you later.